So here we go, kicking off the March Libraries Build Business community discussion. We have Terry Preston here from Gwinnett County Public Library to talk to us about engaging volunteers in meaningful roles, and in particular in business programs such as the New Start Entrepreneurship Incubator. And I'm Megan Janicki from ALA. This is a informal conversation, peer-to-peer conversation. Feel free to type questions in the chat or to come off mute to make a comment or ask a question. We'd love to hear from you. Glad everyone is here. We host these every month on Zoom, and we record the presentations so that they can go on the YouTube channel, which I will put in the chat. So if you've missed any past ones, feel free to catch up with those on YouTube. Um, I think that's it for me. Terry, take it away. Thanks again
Awesome.
for
Thank
being
you
here.
so much for inviting me to be a presenter for Library Builds community discussion. I see that one of my team members, Steve Thomas, is actually on the call, so I'm excited about that. He is one of our branch managers, but he's also new to the New Start program. So we got a lot of buzz and we're really excited about that. But today I'm given the opportunity to talk about volunteers as partners in library success. Because many times we hear about the librarians, but we don't typically talk a lot about library coordinators or program managers, or sometimes we kind of forget the role and the impact that volunteers play in the success of our libraries. If you think about it, many nonprofits would cease to exist if nobody volunteered, and the library is one of them. So we want to make sure that that we show our volunteers the impact that they have on the programs that they help out with. So my name is Terry Preston. I started my career about 3 years ago in the library. I was a hospice volunteer coordinator. And my journey actually started through the loss of my husband. So it was a personal loss. And I started volunteering with hospice, and I really loved the volunteering in hospice. But I never thought about or couldn't imagine that it would lead me to where I am now, right now. So that's why I say I turned my pain into my passion. So I started volunteering. Then I moved abroad for a little while to Nicaragua for a couple of months, came back, and a wonderful opportunity to work in hospice opened up. That actually led to me meeting someone that I took over her position, which was Annie Siri. Some of you may know Annie. She's a wonderful volunteer and manager. And she was supporting my literacy program through COVID. And she would donate books to my program. But I always thought that she was a volunteer. I didn't realize that when I came in to interview for the position that opened up at the library, that I was actually taking over her position because she was retiring. And every time I talk about that, it's just so crazy because our careers kind of parallel with each other. She started her career at age 60. I started at 60. She was a hospice volunteer. And she has been a mentor for me. And she really helped me in my role because I had no library experience except for that I loved reading books. I love reading. So when I stepped into her role, it was just wonderful that she could help me, but also I can learn a lot about mentoring um, on a personal level with her. So it was really exciting with Annie. So these are two of our branch volunteer coordinators. One actually, Daniela just got promoted to branch supervisor. So we're always excited about that. I get sad, but we're also excited about them going into that role. So a little bit about our volunteers and our story here with Gwinnett County Public Library. Our system-wide volunteer program spans about 15 library branches, with our new one, which is our Hooper Renwick Library, which is both library and museum. That was the only Black high school in Gwinnett County. And it is in a beautiful location, a branch. I support about 35 volunteer coordinators, helping them to create meaningful opportunities that strengthen our library services and expand our impact in the community. Addition to some of the general library duties, our volunteers served as mentors, leaders in three transformative initiatives. One is our Career Online High School program that helps anyone over the age of 19 obtain their high school diploma. Some of your libraries may be part of the Career Online High School. That's a wonderful program with some great successes. One of our students, Jane Mai, came over as an immigrant, had two little children and a husband, graduated from our Career Online High School program, then went on to further her education at Emory University, graduated from Emory University. And now she is part of our program as a mentor. So it's the gift that keeps giving. We had so many of those successes, and I actually use that when I'm recruiting volunteers, her testimony. Another one is our new family literacy program. We received a $350,000 grant from Carnegie New York Corporation. We're really excited about that. It was a lot of hard work to get volunteers, a lot of different processes that we had to go through, but we're there, we're in, we've gotten all of the volunteer roles filled, and that is teaching ESL to our adult learners. The last one is our New Start Entrepreneurship Program, which is a wonderful program that helps formerly incarcerated individuals learn to become entrepreneurs. It's a 6-month program. So many wonderful success stories, and you'll see a video later on in my presentation. One of the ladies that's not in that particular video that I'm showing you, she has actually hired 22 formerly incarcerated individuals. She has a cleaning program. So that program all of these programs are just wonderful programs. But I also wanted to start some volunteer programs that would get people out of just doing the ordinary, maybe shelving, giving volunteers other opportunities. And one was our community engagement ambassador role. And that offers new and flexible ways for volunteers to connect with and serve the community. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had our Hooper Renwick speaker series, and our community engagement ambassadors were able to help out with that. It was a wonderful opportunity. They're engaging with the community. They're talking about the Hooper Renwick. They're talking a little bit about the history, but especially with volunteers that have been part of our program for quite some time, sometimes they want to pivot. So that is a wonderful role to pivot into our community engagement ambassador. These are some of our teen volunteers, which I love. So we're talking a little bit about powering purpose and our mission and vision in action. So our mission statement for our volunteer program, it helps empowers individuals to make a meaningful impact and also strengthen our communities, because that's really what we're here for, is to strengthen our communities. But we want to support transformative initiatives like our Career Online High School and New Start. And also we want to make sure that our mission aligns with the mission of Gwinnett County Public Library. Our vision is to inspire the community of volunteers who expand opportunities, strengthen connections, and amplify the impact of Gwinnett County Public Library. So in the past year, in 2025, our volunteers contributed over 20,000 hours in support of our library services. That is an increase from 2024 of 800 hours. So with the community engagement, our mentor opportunities, programs at the branches, we have increased our hours, which I'm really excited, which means that we're making changes. We're making a big impact in the community. Our volunteers are really having a great time. So that just shows so much promise. But through their service, we're able to extend our reach, provide greater support to our families. We had a diaper program. We have a blessing bag program. But also reaching out to our students, our collaborations with Gwinnett County Public Schools and our family literacy program, but also our community members, helping them to seek resources, education, and opportunity. Inclusion is so important in volunteer engagement. This is probably one of my favorite events so far that we had at one of our branches. It was our Ramadan event in 2025. We had such an amazing time, and this was the launch of our community engagement ambassador program. And this is one of our amazing community engagement ambassadors. But a strong volunteer program is built on inclusion and belonging. Our goal is really to create volunteer opportunities where people from diverse backgrounds, lived experiences, skill sets, but we want our volunteers to feel welcome, valued, and connected to the mission of the library and the communities that we serve. That's why it's so important with intentional volunteering. So when our volunteers feel included and understood how their work contributes to meaningful outcomes, they become such strong advocates for the library. They really do. We don't realize that our volunteers are walking billboards. They're out talking about their experiences. They're out talking about our programs. They're connecting. I hear it all the time when I go out into the community, and someone will say, you know what, a volunteer told me about this, or a volunteer told me about that. That's the kind of relationships we want to have with our volunteers. So I really take my recruiting seriously, and it has to be with purpose. And it's helped to build a powerful volunteer team. And some of the ways that I do that is through mission-driven recruitment. We want to attract volunteers who want to make a meaningful impact, not just fill roles. When I worked in hospice, that was the one thing I did not like working in hospice, because we had to reach 5% of our patient contact time. And it was almost like a sales, and I really want connection. And that's one of the things that I talk to our volunteer coordinators about, is that making sure that with the roles that we fill are people that want to make a meaningful impact. Also, through strategic role matching, we want to align volunteer opportunities with skills, their interests, and community needs. For instance, we would match a history buff, someone that loves history at Hooper Renwick. That just a perfect match right there. Our tech savvy volunteers for digital programs. Also, community outreach and partnerships. We want to build connections with schools, nonprofits, and businesses to engage with passionate volunteers. It's so important to be mindful of creative recruitment campaigns. We want to use fun and attention grabbing ads across social media, our newsletters, and our community events. When people see that, when I do an ad on, I guess it's Idealist, I got to still get used to that Idealist now. It used to be Volunteer Match. We want to make the recruitment ad engaging, sometimes maybe even humorous. You know, I talk about our virtual volunteer opportunities. You can actually volunteer in your fuzzy slippers and your pajamas. So, you know, people really like, okay, I think I can do this, especially if you don't have a lot of time to volunteer. We talk a little bit about connection and engagement, virtual information sessions. For each of our roles, for our volunteers, for our Career Online High School, our New Start program, our Family Literacy program, once a volunteer shows interest, I will do a virtual information session. And that talks a little bit about what the responsibilities are. I'll bring in people that are actually managing the program and invite them if they're available. But this really kind of gives you insight to the program, but it also gives the potential volunteer, the opportunity to ask questions that sometimes we don't even think of. So I do this with all of my roles that I recruit volunteers for. And this is Mr. Dave. Mr. Dave is one of our mentors for our New Start program. He is actually a two-time winner. Twice or three times his mentors have won either first place or the grand prize winner for New Start. He is an amazing mentor. But ways that we turn volunteer time into community impact, it has to start with team buy-in. If you don't have team buy-in, you're our volunteers need to know that they're needed. So our staff need to value our volunteers. Collaboration and impact grow. If our volunteers don't feel valued or needed, or they don't know the impact that they have, you're really doing a disservice to your volunteer program. Another way that we turn volunteer time into community impact is through strategic recruitment, attracting volunteers whose passions align with the mission. Especially when our mentors, if they've been part of the program and then they come back on as a mentor, that is such a wonderful connection. They can really talk about, they can give their testimony of how the program impacted them. And role clarity, that is so important. Clear expectations help volunteers feel confident and effective. We're setting our volunteers up for success through role clarity. Purpose driven. Our volunteers understand how their time directly impacts the community. I'm always sending our volunteer information or even our volunteer coordinators how our volunteers are impacting our program. We just got a beautiful email from one of our family literacy volunteers and how the impact that they're having on the students. And I love hearing that. So those things that they need to hear those things. Clear communication is so important. Consistent updates, they keep everyone informed and connected. We need to make sure that we're sending emails for any updates, anything that they need to know that's new and at the branches that's going to affect the volunteer role. That needs to be, because our volunteer, they chose to be with us. They could be anywhere else, but they chose to be with us. So we want to make sure we give them clear communication. Support and recognition, guidance and appreciation, that keeps volunteers motivated. Everybody wants to feel appreciated. And my love language is gifts, and that's where it could be just a simple email, it can be a thank you, but support and recognition. Sometimes our volunteers, we highlight them on social media or through our newsletter. So support and recognition is very important. Community and connection. Strong relationships make volunteer meaningful and lasting. And I always love when a volunteer, they start off, maybe a teen has started off and then they become adults and then their children become volunteers. That is just such a wonderful thing to witness. Did I go past? I think, oh no, I'm sorry. So from post to people, how social media builds our volunteer teams. I love social media. I'm a big advocate for social media if it's used in the right way. I truly take advantage of it. Some of the ways that we do is highlighting real experiences that highlight our volunteer impact. We also do our recruitment posts. Both of these YouTube ads, Jane has one and Joanna from New Start. I use those when I send out recruitment emails or when I'm doing a virtual information session. People are understanding about the program, but they're also seeing the impact that our mentors have or our volunteers have on the program. We also volunteer takeovers, feature a day in the life of stories from volunteers. It's so nice when we highlight volunteers and they show the community the impact that they have and how they're having an amazing experience as a volunteer. Also, you can show your volunteers how volunteers support programs and strengthen the community. And the big thing is, I encourage our volunteers to share their experience on their own personal social media platforms. Even the staff, I use LinkedIn a lot, and I'm always posting about the wonderful things volunteers are doing, what our volunteer coordinators are doing, and just inviting people in the lives of volunteering. Another way that we connect with our volunteers is through, I talked a little bit about our mentorship and our skill-based volunteer opportunities. These are pictures of some of our mentors with our New Start program. Some of the people in this picture have actually been part of the program again, and they've come on as a mentor, even one of our board members. But our volunteers, they share expertise in business, education, and technology, fostering confidence and knowledge in community members, creating pathways to opportunities and growth through mentorship relationship. The New Start program is just such a wonderful way for our SCORE members or our community members that have businesses, small businesses, to sow a seed into the program. Some of them are actually presenters, like Stephanie. Stephanie is a SCORE member. She was also part of the Gwinnett Entrepreneurship organization along with Dave, and they actually have brought on volunteers for me or mentors for me that I love. So they're out also talking about the program. So they such wonderful relationships with our mentors. I think that none of us can be without our partnerships in the community. And this is just some of our partnerships. Volunteer Gwinnett is a great partnership that we have. And they're recruiting volunteers for the county. So sometimes when I can't use a volunteer, I'll send them over to Volunteer Gwinnett. And sometimes Volunteer Gwinnett actually helps us recruit volunteers. So I really love our partnerships in the community because it helps us to tap into new communities and audiences that we don't even think of sometimes. We're also creating exciting and meaningful volunteer experiences through our partnerships. The Boy Scouts of America, we were able to help a young man achieve his the highest award of Boy Scouts, and he was able to volunteer and do some blessing bags for us. And now he's told other Boy Scout members about the opportunities. Also, it's a way that we pull our resources with some of the colleges. They have a nonprofit day where we're able to come in with other nonprofits and talk about the opportunities, and we're able to pull resources, and also show support for each other. But we're always shining brighter. We're highlighting volunteer impact with partner collaboration, because it's not just one organization that's going to make a community better. It's a collaborative effort. So one of the things that I really kind of harped on when I started as the volunteer program manager is untapping the power of our volunteers, the untapped power of volunteers. Sometimes we just don't think about how our volunteers can be an asset in other ways. And one of the ways is our community ambassadors, which is our community engagement ambassadors, because they can connect and recruit patrons. Also, think of them when you do your program, maybe program innovators, creating fresh events or helping you with fresh events and workshops. They have a wealth of information, but we have to ask them these things. They can be creative storytellers, sharing library stories online. Of course, we couldn't do anything without our mentors and our tutors, because they're helping us boost literacy, learning, and entrepreneurship. And then our community researchers, they're out there, they're gathering insight and feedback from the community. They're living in the community, so they know. So we can get feedback from them. Special skilled leaders, our lead, they can maybe lead or assist depending on what your branch does with a program or workshop. Testing new techs and services. Cultural stewards like the Hooper Renwick, they can help with things like that. But also peer mentors. Our volunteers can also help other mentors and train and support them. And our inclusion champions would reach unrepresented communities like our veterans, our senior communities, some of the communities that we kind of really need to tap into. So we want to make sure that we are kind of covering all the sources with recruiting volunteers and providing additional opportunities for our volunteers. Again, I can't stress enough about buy-in. So from buy-in to breakthroughs, these are some of the questions that I'm going to ask you guys, and maybe you can help me. First, amplifying our mission. How do you see your volunteers amplifying the library's mission beyond the work of staff alone? How do you define success? What would a truly successful volunteer program look like in your branch or your department? And then integration and impact. How can we better integrate volunteers so they feel essential, not just optional to your team's impact? And if you'll think about that at the end of the presentation, anyone want to maybe give some suggestions and tell me how your volunteer program is going and ways that your volunteers are impacting the community? So supporting the team, some of the ways that I support our team, and I love supporting our team, I think we have a wonderful volunteer coordinator team, is through our quarterly chat and chew I started. That's really just casual check-ins to connect, listen, share updates, but also any issues that they may be having. We try to do that on a quarterly basis. I got a little bit behind because of the big recruitment campaign we had for our family literacy program, but I try to be consistent and do it on a quarterly basis. It's just a wonderful way that our volunteers can get together, shoot ideas off of each other. I love hearing it. I'm also able to, when I hear things, I'm also able to take those things to leadership to see how we may need to change things or maybe something's not working. But that's just a great way to connect with your volunteer coordinators. Branch visits. I started this when I first started on, and probably will be revisiting that again. Going out to meet the team, observing programs, and providing hands-on support. I love some of the children's events that we do. I'm always asking, how can I help in some way? Um, and then this is my second annual coordinator retreat. So our volunteer coordinators will have a retreat in April. We'll go over some training strategies at our team building event, which I'm really excited about. I have some great ideas of how we can make that successful. And of course, appreciation and recognition. A simple email, a simple thank you, cards, small gifts. I think that popcorn thing cost me less than 50 cents to make. Um, so, just saying I'm just popping by during National Popcorn Day. And I just kind of created that. I got some great ideas from Pinterest. And it was so easy to make and slapped a little thing on there and a bow, and it looked so cute. And it made a big difference. Um, Communication and feedback through newsletters and surveys. I survey our volunteer coordinators along with our volunteers in any programs that our mentors are part of or our family engagement. Surveys are so important, and we need the feedback to make sure that we're doing a great job and seeing if there's anything that we need to improve on. I am a huge advocate for our volunteer coordinators and our volunteers. So I represent coordinators' needs and achievements to leadership. Be, I just sometimes our volunteer coordinators. People think of them last. I think I posted this on social media. Just because we're last on the role of the information role does not mean that our volunteer coordinators should be last in um, learning things and communicating to them and being invited to the table. Um, and last, International Volunteer Managers Day, and I hope that they change the name to International Volunteer Administrators Day. That is a day that we celebrate our coordinators globally on November 5th. That's a way to connect and kind of recognize our volunteer coordinators, tell them in person or send an email out to them saying, I think you're doing a great job. Our volunteer coordinators, I hear it all the time. They want to hear that they want to feel appreciated. They want to feel valued. They want to be heard. So that's so important. And that's it. And remember, great volunteer experiences don't just happen, they're built on a foundation of clear and caring communication. So I'm going to stop this. So the question again, does anyone have any highlights from their particular branch or ways that maybe some suggestions or some best practices and what you're doing at your branch, in your volunteer department, or how you're showing appreciation to your volunteer coordinators or your volunteers?
I don't have a question about volunteers because we're not allowed to use them. But the was it New Start program for the
Yes,
justice involved? Is that your own program that you created, or is that like a curriculum that you licensed or?
that is our own program. Steve, you want to chat? You want to chime in?
Sure. Yeah, it's a program that we started with the grant from ALA and Google from 2020, I want to say, the Libraries Build Businesses grant. And yeah, it was I wasn't part of the original team, but yeah, it was they kind of came up with it on their own, the staff at the library, and we've kind of evolved it over the years. This is the sixth year we've done it. We've done it every year, and it we started off just with in-person sessions. It's still in-person sessions, but we've added like workshops on how to write a business plan. We've added we call it Launchpad, which is basically Shark Tank.
Mhm.
But at the end, they get to pitch their business, and then there's, with some grant money, we're able to give them some basically seed money for their business. If they're the ones that win the Shark Tank kind of thing, condensed. We get people outside the library to come be the judges, so we're
Mhm.
not biased by the people that we've gotten to know over these 6 months.
Right.
But yeah, no, there's in-person sessions for 6 months. It's all the speakers are from the community, so they're business leaders. It's not library people doing the leading. We've kind of put together the curriculum of what we want, like topics we want to have covered, but it's real business leaders in the community coming in. Like if you're an expert on, like a lot of SCORE volunteers will come
Mhm.
to help with that.
Mhm.
But talk about business plans again, financing. Trying to think of other topics, branding, marketing, all kinds of things like that. And then
Mhm.
we have a graduation at the end where if they go through the whole thing and complete everything, oh, and there's a Google Classroom part of it as well that they do kind of asynchronously as well. And if they complete everything on time, they get a refurbished laptop at the end, so they can
Oh,
just have. And again, that's kind of covered with the grant funds that we get. We did start. So we started with that Google ALA grant, and we've moved on to using other grants over the time, so we've got enough. Like some of our local EMCs have helped with that kind of thing. The electrical companies just giving us very nice grants, so it's been able to
nice.
sustain the program really well.
Cool.
And
Thanks.
Steve, also, you can see the success with the mentors. It makes a big difference with
Yes.
the community and business owners. And originally, our mentors were not required to come to sit in the classroom. They could actually volunteer virtually, but I changed that because I think our mentors have a better success when they're side by side in the classroom with the mentors.
Yeah, and ties us all back to the volunteer portion of that. That yeah, those mentors are just some of them, like Terry said, they are graduates of the program, so they went through the whole thing, and so they can really talk to the experience of it, and they have the whole experience. But some of them are just business leaders who are volunteering their time to help other new entrepreneurs get started. And we do try to. I know Terry's done a really good job this year, especially of trying to match them up with at least somewhere close to the field of what kind of business they're trying to start. I mean, because you don't necessarily want somebody who runs a restaurant to talk to somebody who's starting a hairstyle company. Like they don't, they'll they can help, but it's not as relevant. So Terry's done a good job of finding people like that, and that is a really important part of the program as well, that mentorship. So.
Thank you so much for mentioning that because I think a lot of people don't realize that okay, we can get a volunteer, but it really is that intentional match, matching people. And sometimes I can do it, and sometimes I don't. It can be a little difficult, but I try my best to match their likeness together. Even the personalities, I try to match together. So if we want them to have a great experience, both the person that's part of the program, but also I'm big. I want our volunteers to have amazing experiences. And Lucretia, she said that she started also to volunteer, then became a coordinator for the program before finally getting her MSLIS. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we want our volunteers to do. We should be sending, and we should also be sending our volunteers any openings that we have, any job openings that we have. Why shouldn't we be hiring from our volunteer team? So that's something that you also can, incorporate if you if you have volunteers at your branches. I am not familiar with the union. So you got, Jen, you're not able to have volunteers. Ah, wow, that's interesting. Okay.
Anything that a staff person could do, we're not allowed to have a volunteer to do. I mean, our foundation has some volunteers that work in like the bookstore, but us actual like internal library people, yeah, we would never be able to have a volunteer like execute a program or anything like that.
And generally, we don't have volunteers like doing that level of, but they will like shelf books, which would be something that probably that you wouldn't do there either because
Yeah, no, because we have pages for that, and that's also union.
Yeah, but we do have like volunteers will come and help with the programs, but it is staff are running and planning all the programs, but they'll come and help sometimes, especially with summer reading being as crazy as it is everywhere. That it's helpful to have extra hands just to help crowd control sometimes. Like at my branch, our kickoff program, we have a magician usually come every year, and it's 300 plus.
It gets
people
crazy
in the building, sometimes 400, and so it's crazy. We won't tell the fire marshal what the what the resident how much we're supposed to have in the building.
And that's a great way that our volunteers, if they only have the summertime, to run, it maybe just going off to college, that's a great opportunity for them to volunteer for the summer reading challenge. I typically, this year I did something different. I created a Google Doc and I kind of sent that to the different branches to let me know what their needs are. So then when I'm doing the recruitment ad, I know exactly which branch needs what, the time, the date, and what type of volunteers are going to be needed for that particular event, because each branch is different, which is something that I had to learn the hard way when I started. I just thought all libraries worked alike, but I'm like, okay, each branch is different and they have different needs. So sometimes what makes everybody's role a little bit different. But Steve has been doing a wonderful job, but he just kind of came right in for New Start. And he just full steam ahead. He's been doing a wonderful job. We have 17, was it 16 or 17? This is the
16,
largest cohort, if I'm not mistaken. And the energy is so amazing. People are excited about being part of it. The mentors are really excited about being part of. We have a really great team, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, the one thing that's helpful, like from the branch perspective, I know with volunteers, a lot of times we'll do a lot of outreach to the schools, especially the high schools, because kids are having to do a lot of volunteer time for college applications and everything, or for their beta club or all these kind of things. So that gives them an opportunity to do that in a way that they can. I mean, and then we can get them involved with other things at the library as well. But we can get those kids a lot of times in and give them those hours that they're looking for. And I don't know if Terry, I don't know those big details, but do you want to talk more about the family literacy? It's the we got a Carnegie grant.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about that. So, like I said, we received a $350,000 grant from Carnegie Corporation. We're really excited. Out of 400 people trying to get the grant, we were only 11 libraries were chosen. We were the only one in Georgia. So it was exciting. It was a lot of work put into bringing that program into fruition. It's the launch is really exciting. The volunteers are really having a great time, and it's only geared toward adult learners. And hopefully we're thinking of maybe bringing it into some of the branches and even into some of the community organizations. I am part of on my side hustle. I do arts and crafts and books with a community apartment, and they actually have a community center located, and it's not just a community room, it's actually a community center, and they want to bring the ESL program to their community center. It really is a wonderful community and organization. So that's a great way for the family literacy program to start. So we have about 25 volunteers for that program. It will probably double or triple next year. So I am getting started now. the next round of volunteers, because they have to go through so many things. They do the virtual information session. Then from there, we interview them. Then from there, they're going through a 4 or 5 hour training, and it's just a process. It really is a process. It is a lot of hard work, but I've learned so much about myself, and I'm excited about working with that particular team. I work with some great teams. I really do. And I really enjoy what I do, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to take over Annie's position. So it was just a wonderful, a match made in heaven. So any questions? So anyone have anything that they how are they supporting their volunteer program or their volunteer coordinators if you have them? Steve, how are you supporting your volunteer coordinators at your branch? I'm gonna put you on.
I just do whatever you say, Terry. So. No, I mean, again, we encourage, help make those connections with the schools so they can have know the right people to talk to. And I mean, the volunteers we have for Volunteer Appreciation Week, we always, give them some little tokens of appreciation, nothing all that fancy, but just like some snacks or something, here's a little popcorn, like Terry said, or some little candies or something like that. And we always try to make sure when they're first hired for the branches to make sure the volunteer coordinators take them around to introduce them to all of the staff members so everybody knows who they are and can say hi and really get to know them better and try to basically treat them like a staff member. Not just, oh, well, there's that kid who's here shelving or whatever, just but I really just, oh, welcome, hey, I'm glad to see you. And yeah, that's my big thing, I think, is just that just treating them the same as a staff member, just like some of our branches have security staff members. They're not technically, they're contractors or whatever, but we treat them like a member of the staff because they're here with us and doing the work. So we want to show our appreciation for that because we're doing it for a salary. The volunteers are not. So,
Mhm, mhm. So true. So true.
So sorry, I have my hand raised.
Oh, hi, Brittany.
First, I want to say, Terry, I really enjoyed your presentation, and I just see the passion coming through through the Zoom call, and I think you've just ignited something in me today. So thank you so much for your presentation. Unfortunately, I'm at a academic library, so I don't know for any of the academic institutions on the line if you have volunteers, but I really liked, how you brought up that there should be some kind of volunteer appreciation. Because just thinking back to my public library experience, the volunteers really helped our library run. And so whenever I needed help, I could actually have have a volunteer work with me, whether it was programming or putting together these packets, which were a lot of work. So just thank you for that reminder and just all the work you're doing. I really liked how you talked about Launchpad, and I may reach out to you directly about that because that's something I would be interested in starting. But my question would be, do you all have a workroom for your volunteers?
Steve?
Do you have a space for them?
There's not a dedicated space for them, but I mean, we do have like they're kind of welcome to be in, or I guess I should say, so we have our regular workroom, and in my branch and most of the newer branches, there is a nice big room, so there's space for them to have their own, like where they sign in when they come in and sign out, and if we have messages for them, there is kind of a little section over there. It's basically their own little cubicle, I guess, that would be for them. But most of the work that they're doing is doing shelving or something else like that, so they're not sitting down and doing a lot of work sometimes, so they don't have a workspace necessarily. But in our break room, we do have a few lockers set aside for them so they can keep their stuff there. And again, we just try to we try to make them part of the team, I guess. And so, the workroom is there and it's there for them as much as it's there for the staff. And if we're asking them to do something where they need to sit down or put together some paperwork, especially like for summer reading, if we're putting together like packets that we're going to give out when we first register somebody for summer reading, sometimes we'll have all the papers, laid out on a page and we just need kind of assembly line putting it together and volunteers will do that. But, a staff member might do it with them. And so they're kind of working together and yeah, we just give them the same space as the staff basically. So yeah, not a dedicated space necessarily, but we don't segregate them out from using the same staff, that same area as the staff. And I would say, Adam, when you were talking about doing it in a college, I would say a lot of what Terry's talking about could be probably applied to like your work study students and things like that. That they are sort of the equivalent of that. I mean, I know they're getting paid for work study and stuff, but they're the sometimes thought of as a lower level kind of person. So.
And Megan, I just want to show this video that I forgot to show about the New Start and how the impact that the mentors have on the program. So I'm just going to play that right quick.
Great.
I started
Can you
my
hear?
business because I wanted to give other people that had gone through the things that I've gone through the opportunity to have employment and make something of themselves.
One of the key hurdles is just the stigma that is associated with having been formerly incarcerated.
Just because you made a mistake doesn't mean that your life is over. There's many people that believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. It's been amazing that I've had a mentor such as Mr. Dave. He has kind of guided us step by step onto how to facilitate things. As the business owners, everything just falls on you. Marketing, the licensing, the knowledge of even financing, taxes. Each class has taught me a new thing about how to be better at things.
The commitment that she had, the focus that she had, and was just the dedication and equally important work ethic to make her business successful.
When you have people that actually are rooting for you and are on your side and are taking their time to teach you how to be a better business owner, it's amazing. And I'm very, very thankful for them.
I think the value that the library places just speaks volume about the commitment that not just the library, the county, but also citizens have in wanting to support and make a difference.
I know I'm going to be successful. I know this company is going to be successful. America's Choice Roofing started as a dream. This program has put us in a position where now it's executing. The program has literally given me a new start, definitely.
So I just wanted to end on that. I thank you guys. Megan, thank you so much for inviting me, including our volunteers and our coordinators into this discussion. I just think it's just such an honor to be part of this group and just share a little bit of what's going on our side of the world.
Thank you so much, Terry. Yeah, it was really great to hear from you all, and you're doing great work. It's just so cool to hear all of the updates over the years. Yeah, we've got a couple more minutes if anybody else has final thoughts or questions for Terry. Got a couple of minutes.
And Brittany, I can send this video to you too if you want to keep it, if you want to take another look at it, along with the Career Online High School YouTube with Jane Mai too.